So I bought the world's cheapest paramotor from AliExpress. It costs $3,000, is powered by an RC airplane engine, and ships straight to your door from Hong Kong. They say you get what you pay for, but this makes me wonder, is it going to fall apart mid-flight, or will it be my new favorite paramotor? In this video, we're going to cover the unboxing, the specs, and do the first startup. In the next video, we're going to see if this paramotor actually flies, plus we're going to launch some new merch at Risky Biscuits Co., as well as a brand new giveaway where one of you guys will win this very paramotor. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. The first step of this process was ordering the paramotor. Apparently 4 of these have been sold in the past, and the paramotor had a not so glowing review of 3.7 stars. I've never ordered anything from AliExpress before, but the purchase was pretty seamless. The grand total came out to be just over $3,000 with tax and the free shipping. And to my knowledge, this is the cheapest paramotor available in the world. But the next question was, would the paramotor actually show up? To my surprise, in only 12 days, this beautiful little package wrapped in DHL tape arrived on my front porch, fresh out of Hong Kong. When I lifted the box, I was initially surprised at how light it was. Was there actually a paramotor inside, or did they just put a bunch of used rags in and scam me? Upon opening the box, there was indeed a paramotor inside. However, apparently in an attempt to achieve the cheapest paramotor in the world, they had to cut some corners on packing supplies. There were only 2 sheets of bubble wrap inside the box. This was kind of funny. As you'd expect, there was a little bit of damage to the paramotor, but luckily it was nothing major. I pulled out the cage pieces, the propeller, and the main subframe, which includes the engine. Before we go any further, let's talk some specs. Yes, this is an engine from an RC airplane. Why do the exhausts look like Gatling guns? I have no idea. This engine is actually a knockoff of the more popular DLE 170 engine. It's actually manufactured by UPF, or United Flight Power, whoever that is. It's a 170cc twin-cylinder engine with a claimed 17.5 horsepower, making 84 pounds or 38 kilograms of thrust at a screaming 7,500 RPM while spinning a tiny little 32-inch propeller, all while weighing just 35.5 pounds ready to fly. This motor features an electric start and no magneto, so to my understanding, if the onboard battery dies, so does the engine. To get the assembly started, I first installed the air filter and the tiny little baby spark plugs. A fellow paramotor pilot and YouTuber, Avery Colburn, was one of the 4 people to purchase this paramotor before me, and what I learned from his experience was that many of the bolts on this engine were either loose out of the box or vibrated loose in flight. So knowing this, I took the exhausts and the main motor mounts off, applied some Loctite, and reassembled everything and tightened it. Back to that damage I previously mentioned, luckily it wasn't that bad, and I used some leverage to bend the aluminum back into shape. Now that the engine was prepped, I unboxed the cage pieces, the propeller, the carabiners, and the harness. Now as far as safety goes, the engine dying mid-flight is the least of my concerns. I can deal with that just fine. The worst possible thing that could ever happen is if the harness fails or a carabiner fails. After inspecting the harness, I do have pretty good faith in it. It seems very well built, and I have no reason to believe it won't support the weight of my massive balls. The cage assembly was seamless and all the parts fit together, and the hoop was actually really strong. I heard that the stock propeller wasn't the most efficient, so I did purchase an aftermarket prop that I can test later. However, I really like the stock prop. It looks pretty sick, it's super lightweight, and it has a matte carbon fiber finish. I did hit a little hiccup though. The bolts they provided would not tighten fully because the shoulder of the bolt bottomed out. A propeller spacer would have solved this, however they don't provide one. Luckily, I had some bolts that were the same size, just without the shoulder, so I used those. Next up, I installed the harness. Now this harness is a little unique compared to what I normally fly. Most of my paramotors, actually all of them, use swing arms and a low hang point. This harness uses J-bars and a high hang point. This is sort of older technology, and it's a lot more simple, but it limits your weight shiftability. Now with the harness attached, I was finally able to try it on, and this thing feels stupidly light, literally like a backpack. Although some friends of mine confirmed that the stock carabiners are from a legitimate manufacturer, the carabiners are a single point of failure where if they did fail, I'd definitely die or be seriously injured. So I went ahead and put a different set of carabiners on the harness. Next up, I needed to get the paramotor basically flight ready so that I could balance it. To do this, I filled the gas tank and I installed a 4-cell lithium battery. The battery is one thing that's not included, most likely due to shipping restrictions, but luckily I had one on hand. With the paramotor now in its flight-ready condition, I set up a hang test and adjusted the hang point forward a few times just to get the angle dialed in. I also made sure that the leg straps were adjusted properly and I could get in and out of the harness.
All right, the hang test is complete. I have fuel in the tank. I've got a battery hooked up for the e-start. The only thing left to do now is prime it and see if she runs. So I'm gonna take her outside. Hopefully she fires up, cross your fingers, and I'm gonna get a feel for the first time of how much thrust this baby's gonna put out, and I'm not expecting a lot. All right, here we go. First start, cross your fingers. Okay, normally I highly advise against ground starting, but this thing's so small, I think it's fine.
After futzing with the motor for quite some time, I diagnosed that there was an issue with the primer bulb. It had seized up completely and it was restricting flow of gas to the engine. So I went ahead and replumbed the entire system with fresh fuel tubing and added a new primer bulb. Luckily, this completely solved the issue I was having and now the motor ran.
All right, this is take 2 of getting this little beast running. The primer bulb was weird. Last night it seized up and it wasn't flowing any fuel. This morning after it sat for a while, it's working again. So I'd assume there's something going on with fuel being in it. Maybe it's not compatible with fuel, who knows. Anyway, I put a new primer bulb on, I replumbed the whole system, let's see if it runs. This thing actually has some thrust. I don't know if you saw that lean angle. It still needs some tuning though. She's not idling right.
I did end up tweaking the high and low end needles on the carbs slightly to get it running even better, and overall, I was actually really impressed with how well it ran. Additionally, I was pretty impressed with the amount of thrust it was making on my back. But after running the motor on the ground for a few minutes, it was clear that the exhaust had some leaks. To solve this, I removed the exhaust and plan to seal it back up with better gaskets and some RTV silicone, but in the process, I found out that the manifolds of the exhaust were actually far from flat. I used a file to flatten out the manifolds, I made my custom gaskets, and I sealed everything back up with RTV silicone and Loctite. Hopefully this solves the leaks.
Alrighty, now that we got this thing running, I want to give you guys some first impressions and kind of a walk around tour of the Paramotor. So first impressions with it running, it actually runs pretty damn well. It vibrates a lot at idle and pretty much the entire throttle range, but the amount of thrust it puts out is substantial. Over there I have an Atom 80, which is like the lowest powered paramotor that's popular. This definitely puts out less power than an Atom 80, but just the feeling on my back, I have no doubt that it'll fly. Actually, I guess I do have a little doubt, but I'm impressed with the amount of thrust. I think it's gonna fly. How reliable will it be in the long term? I think that's the better question. This is an RC airplane engine and a knockoff of an RC airplane engine, so I don't expect the reliability to be great. But let's take a look at the Paramotor itself. Just give you guys a general tour. First, up front, the harness. Now, a lot of people on Instagram have been expressing concerns for my safety, and I get it. I get that this is a Paramotor from AliExpress and it's a little bit sketchy, but actually being hands-on with this thing, I have confidence. The harness itself seems very robust, well built. I mean, if you take a look at these buckles, like these buckles are no name, there's not even a name literally on them, but they seem to operate pretty well. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't trust this harness. The throttle is a little cheap. I mean, it's what you would expect from AliExpress for $3,000. It came made for right hand, and I kind of had to wrap the strap around the back to convert it to left hand. But yeah, it's got the kill switch, the E-start switch, got the J bars in here, got a pin lock in the back. I don't doubt the harness will be fine. Spinning it around to the back. This cage, because of its nature, it's small and it's double hooped, like this thing is robust. Around the back, all the wiring that they did is actually really well managed. A lot of it is wrapped to protect it. It's all zip tied down. I feel like they did a good job with the wiring. The motor itself, if you look close, I put some sealant all around it. The exhaust is all sealed up after my first initial test runs. This little propeller, I think it's a 32 inch. I'm gonna try the stock propeller first, and then after that, I'm gonna try my aftermarket if it needs more thrust. I got my 4-cell lithium battery just strapped to the frame right here. I guess this is a little bit of a point of concern. Lithium batteries can be explosive, and if the battery catches on fire, that's definitely not good. I could put this in one of those LiPo bags, but I don't know. I feel okay that that's gonna be safe. Worst case scenario, I can reach back and I can unplug the battery and just throw it if something starts to go wrong. I don't know. Maybe that's a dumb thing to say. The fuel tank, I think, is 1 gallon. It feels like cheap plastic. It's not very thick. The cage itself, though, is really legit. Like, the way it Velcros together, it's just a solid unit. Obviously, the fuel tubing and the primer bulb gave me trouble, so I just replaced all of that with nicer stuff. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this thing. I mean, for $3,000, knowing it was an RC airplane engine from the get-go, I'm impressed so far with like the build quality and everything. I'm expecting it to not have a lot of power, but it only weighs like 34 pounds with the right wing. If it gets in the air, it's a win. There's just something about it though that's just like charming. I feel like mini paramotors in general should be like a new genre because, I mean, you can throw this in a hatchback. I don't know, it would probably fit in a sedan, especially if you take the cage off, but there's just something cool about it with it being so small and so lightweight and minimalist that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to fly it. I'm excited to see how much power it has, if it has reliability. I know a lot of my friends are excited to try it, and I think we're just gonna have a good time like passing it around and getting each other's reactions. So I'm really looking forward to that. The maiden voyage of this thing will be in the next video, so stay tuned for that. I'm actually really excited about this. I think it's gonna go great, so wish me luck and tune in for that episode. Make sure you're subscribed. So till then, hope you enjoyed, have fun, fly safe. Till the next one, peace. Bzz.